I want to talk just a little bit about my faith because I know that everybody here is a person of faith, or you wouldn't have come to this particular event. And I actually was a person who was raised in a Christian household by a grandmother who loved me deeply and took care of me because my own mother was unable to take care of me because my mom struggled with opioid addiction for a big chunk of my early life. And, Mamaw was one of these people who, despite the fact that she really loved the Lord and she took her Christian faith very seriously, I mean, she was a woman who hadn't graduated from high school, much less college, but she thought more about what her faith required over than any person I have met before or since. But Mamaw wasn't a regular churchgoer. Sometimes we'd go to church. Most of the time we'd watch, Trinity Broadcasting Network at home on Sunday. And one of the things that we watched a lot of growing up is a lot of Billy Graham revivals. And it's a very cool thing for me personally because we started the day here in North Carolina visiting the gravesite of Billy Graham, just of course probably 15 miles from here. And it's unbelievable because one of the people who actually helped me encounter the Christian faith for the first time is Billy Graham with my grandmother. And I just say you guys have a great tradition of faith and service here in the Charlotte area. Billy Graham's a great one, but there are a lot of great ones just in this room. So thank you. And, Mamaw that's what I called my grandmother. I called her Mamaw. And, she was a woman of many contrasts. She was a very firm disciplinarian, but she also gave me a loving and stable home, which we know all children ultimately need. Now, I think like a lot of young people and a lot of people who were raised in the Christian faith, I started about the time that I was sort of towards the end of my Marine Corps service, started to feel like I was smarter than the woman who raised me and that I knew things that she didn't do. I think a lot of 21-year-old kids, they get this idea that they know everything and they forget the wisdom of prior generations. And that was certainly me when it came to my faith. And so by the time that I got out of the Marine Corps, which was in 2007, and went to college, I really considered myself a non-believer. I might have even called myself an atheist from time to time because I sort of assumed that Mamaw was wrong and that the only people who believed that what she believed were superstitious and backwards. And I was arrogant. There was an arrogance there. And, one of the things that really led me back to the Lord is a recognition that I didn't know everything and that there was some wisdom. Even though my grandmother was not an educated woman, she was a very brilliant woman. And there was a lot of wisdom in the faith that I had discarded as a young man. And in particular, when I met and fell in love with my wife, Usha, and I started to think about the big questions, not about getting more education credentials or about where I was going to work or trying to make more money. When I started thinking about the important stuff, like what kind of a father did I want to become? And what kind of a husband did I want to be to this lovely person who I'd fallen madly in love with? That led me back to the Lord because I found the answers in the Christian faith of my grandmother for what I needed to be as a husband and father. And that recognition that, God didn't care about how much money I made. God didn't care about where I went to school. God didn't care if I wrote a best-selling book or ran for vice president. But God really did want me to be a virtuous husband and a virtuous father. And that made me realize that the Christian faith that I had discarded was, in fact, the best solution to the problems that confronted me as a young man. And that got me back on the journey to my faith.
John 15:13, greater love has no one than this, than someone lay down his life for his friends. Ephesians 5:25, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. In the midst of marriage and in the midst of raising children, much self-sacrifice is required, and that is why Christian marriages among Christians who attend church and regularly and read the Bible regularly focus on their relationship with Christ, the one who sacrificed everything for us. It's probably why Christian marriages do the best. The full speech by Vice President J.D. Vance will be in the description. Christ is Lord of all. and every tongue will confess it. That is testimony number 45 in this Atheist Converts to Christianity series.